And welcome in everybody to another episode of the High Low Sports Podcast, the only sports show you'll find on the internet and on anywhere else that's not going to start the show off with a very stupid April Fool's joke. Because you know what, you can be a fool any time of the year, and you don't need to use a special day to lie to people. You can do that anytime you want. It is DJ, joined as always by my co-host Kelcey. Is normally I'd start off with a joke here, or something like that, but since it's April Fool's Day, we're going to do the opposite. We're going to go straight into serious talk.
Oh, so I'll put my jokes away.
No, there's room, but like they got to be good.
Yeah, no, look, April Fool's Day is every sports fan's nightmare because the amount of dumb things we get to read on Twitter today was always the worst. And on top of that, like you don't know what's real and what's not. What gets released today that's legitimate? What can you actually like? Especially, all right, as a fan who goes to games and obviously eats the food at the stadium, the amount of new food releases that come out on April 1st after the 31st released so many new things. I don't know what's real and what's not. So now I have to wait until the second and to look it back up again and find out. And also, Louisville Kings with their announcement that you have to keep decibel levels under 75 decibels. Don't encourage your fans that were meh. I mean, you're a new franchise. Let's not encourage them to be quiet ever. That's a bad idea. Let's not do that. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, now April Fool's Day for sports fans does kind of suck because you just never know what's real and what's fake.
And on top of whoever decided to have a rocket launch on April Fool's Day really wasn't thinking that through either. It's like, really, are we going to have a major potential crowning human achievement of going back to the moon, and you decided to schedule the launch on April Fool's Day? Like a little bit of a questionable decision there because for obvious reasons. So no
And to
one.
name it Artemis, I mean, it's like, okay, you chose one of the gods that's known for wisdom, and you're like, we're going to do that on April Fool's Day. Why? Who are we trying to fool today?
Well, no fooling here. We got a lot to get into, so we're going to go and start with the opening part of our show. That is the tip-off part. Very good friends over at SeatGeek. Use code Sports for $20 off your first set of tickets, whether it's tickets for a festival, sporting event, concert, anything that requires tickets. Use code Sports and get yourself $20 off that initial purchase. And one thing you might want to use that for, but you'll need a lot more than $20, is to go see the Final Four in action. As the Final Four is set, as we take a look at the bracket. UConn taking on Illinois, 2 versus 3, and then a 1v1 matchup, Arizona versus Michigan. I would say just what the doctor ordered, but not quite, but at the same time, not surprising. Nothing too outrageous here, but I'm going to go ahead and just jump off the things that stand off. UConn continues to be UConn. They are absolutely ridiculous. Illinois, that offense really came up, and against Houston, they played some really good defense as well. They showed the ability to be well-rounded, but we're going to the other side of the bracket where holy-ish. Arizona versus Michigan. 2 of the 4 highest rated KenPom teams of all time going head to head with the national championship berth on the line. The 2 highest this year and the 2 highest ever make a Final Four at that. Arizona with a chance to be the second team in college basketball history to win 38 games in a national championship. Only Anthony Davis's Kentucky team was able to do that otherwise. Michigan has a chance to, basically just do a very similar, just with a few less wins. An absolutely incredible showdown on that side. And UConn and Illinois too. Those teams are both very live and could beat either one of those 2 teams. So as we have had some questions about March Madness and some of the lack of Cinderellas and other tomfoolery throughout. The one thing that's always held consistent even during the Cinderellas is there's always some good Final Four matchups. And even with Duke and Houston and some of the ones that were more expected on that side of the bracket to come through, still think we got some good ones. And UConn I think they're like 17-1 in their last 18 tournament games or something insane like that. Like they've been on an absolute tear. And once again, Illinois, I'm very impressed at how Illinois managed to get here as well. We thought they could shoot with anybody. The way they showed that they could actually play defense on top of it makes it a very interesting matchup.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a fun one either side. I think we're gonna get fireworks on one side of the bracket, and on the other side, it's gonna be kind of a defensive matchup that you wouldn't expect. I think Arizona Michigan is going to be the one that we look at as like why did this turn into a defensive matchup when, like you said, they're 2 of the highest KenPom ranked teams of all time. That's offensively and defensively, especially with Arizona who likes to get into the paint, Michigan who can attack you from both sides. If they're able to sort of get some stops and get things slowed down, and you're playing half court offense instead of running and gunning, I think that's going to turn it into a more defensive matchup. And I think UConn, Illinois, we're going to get fireworks. I really, truthfully look at this as like, it's going to be one of the wildest games. And I know everybody's going to be like, why are you picking those 2 as the opposite of what you would expect? And it's a vibe, it's a feeling, it's how these Final Fours really work. is you'll usually have one high scoring matchup and one that's like really boring, but it's a really good defensive. Like if you like basketball, you'll like the defensive matchup. And if you just want fireworks, you're gonna like the 2-3 match. Usually how this always works. Whatever reason, 1-1 always ends up a slow, monotonous duel, unless it's 4-1s, in which case that can't happen.
Hmm.
But in whenever for whatever case it is, when there's a 1 versus 1 and a 2 versus 3 or a 2 versus something or a 3 versus something on the other side, it's always that's the game that has fireworks, and the 1 versus 1 is always a very slow paced game, and that's because you got 5 future NBA players on both sides starting, and you gotta realistically you got to figure out a way to slow them down, and it's comes down to defense, especially with how good these two teams are. It's going to be interesting to see, and I mean, I'm excited to see what's actually going to happen on the court. But I mean, it's going to be a fun one nonetheless.
Absolutely, as you mentioned, and defensively, it's been Arizona and Michigan's mark. They're both in the top 5 as it is. You're throwing all that on top of it, plus the length of Michigan and Arizona. Just the no shot's going to be easy. Everything's going to be contested. It's going to be the under will be our best bet for that one. I don't even know what it's set at right now, but we're liking the under.
It's and whatever free throws are set at, probably pick the over on free throws.
Yeah,
like I think whatever the total overall free throws, I think it's 21.5 or 22.5 free throws in the game right now. Whatever that is, pick the over. I think you're going to get more than 22.5 free throws in the Arizona Michigan game.
100%. I think how it's going to play out. My prediction for this is I'm going to take UConn versus Arizona. I'm going to take the kind of chalkier picks. I think UConn's just going to find a way. They're just so well experienced. It takes like you mentioned, they're 17-1 or something like that in their last 18 tournament games. They were down by 1 billion to Duke, and they still found a way to win through Duke being Dookie at different points and some other things. But so we'll take UConn taking on Arizona. I think Arizona has a chance to go for history there, and UConn has a chance to really set themselves up as an unparalleled dynasty in recent years, getting 3 out of 4 as well. So I'm going to go UConn, Arizona, because I think that has the right amount of fireworks. I think they're just elite teams. Although if you told me Michigan's again, but I'm not surprised either. Like you can make a case those were the 2 best teams in college basketball all season.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Well, first of all, it's hard to bet against UConn's head coach and what he's been able to do in March Madness period. It's one of the more incredible stat lines when it comes to anything that's happening in this Final Four, where a coach has just had such an impeccable winning streak when it comes to the getting through the tournament, getting through March Madness. But Illinois, man, it always feels like Illinois is this team that's always on the cusp, and they're always super close. I mean, I remember the old Fighting Illini days. And you're sitting here watching this team that's like, I think Darren Williams, D Brown, that Illinois team where you're like, oh, this is something different. Like these guys are going to get there. And then obviously they fell short, but still a really good team. And I see kind of similar things from this Illinois team. They're going to be scrappy, and they're going to go out and light it up on the scoreboard. But I don't know if they're good enough to get over UConn. I think I'm also going to pick UConn on that matchup. And on the other side, I am going to go the opposite way. I do think this is Michigan's situation, like Michigan's time to pull it off. It's nothing against Arizona, but when you have a great offense and a number 1 points in the paint offense versus a number 1 defense in the paint defense, I'm going to take the defense. And I know there's a caveat there of they got to stay out of foul trouble. I just told you to take all the free throws you can. That's all right. I'll still accept that opportunity that Michigan can still defensively hold up to that, because playing good paint in the defense isn't just about your bigs. It's about all 5 guys surrounding the ball when they get into the paint. And yes, I just quoted my coaches all throughout my life playing basketball as the big who was down low. They would always be like, don't worry, you don't have to do it by yourself. You kind of do, but that's not the point here. It does still take the whole team to stop the ball when it's in the paint, because you have to stop the outlet pass. You have to stop everything else. And if Michigan can do that, I think Michigan has a great chance. So for me, I'm picking UConn and Michigan to go to the tournament championship here.
Congratulations, Illinois! You just advanced to the national championship. We just did you dirty, which means they would have bounced UConn. Which, you know what, you can make a case that we just sang their praises, but maybe they probably shouldn't have been here instead. With how the way that last game ended against Duke, where Dan Hurley going face to face with the referee there. So I'm going to kind of point out the obvious. That probably should have been a technical foul, because you're not supposed to touch the referee at all, let alone headbutt them and stare them down. So I'm glad it didn't end with an awkward technical free throws, but at the same time, If that's not technical free throws from contacting a ref as a coach, I don't know what is. You went eye to eye, nose to nose, stank to stank. And just Dan Hurley's a menace. We all know this. He's kind of a psychopath, but it does lead to winning. So you hate him, but you respect it. But like this was idiotic, and it should have cost your team the game unless you get lucky and Duke bricks 2 free throws. Like that should have lost you the game. That was because there was a 1-point game with that second left. That was I don't know what he's thinking. Like you can't really argue with the results, but my goodness, like what is going on here?
Yeah, I mean, don't touch the referees ever. That's like I quote like just ever. I don't care what you touch them with. Don't ever touch the referees. And it's tough because like so Dan Hurley in his post conversations, he said, "Oh, I thought he was coming in for a chest bump to celebrate. I had my arm around him earlier in the game. We were buddy, and I was just pumped up, and he was the first person in my face, and I was celebrating with him." Okay,
your face.
Don't do that. It's just you see the stripes, you walk away. See the stripes, you walk away. You see the stripes, you walk away. It's simple. It's very easy. It's like if you see red and blue lights in your mirror, you pull over. So it is what it is. Don't mess with that one. Don't give yourself an opportunity to mess up all the good that your team has done. And look, did he do anything majorly wrong other than put his forehead on another guy's forehead? No. Was it stupid? Yes. Very much so. Was it on the world stage? Absolutely. Dumbest place you could possibly do it next to the national championship game. But yeah, it's tough because like there have been worse things done to referees and less penalties and less coverage on those worse things done to referees. But then there's also been less done to referees and bigger penalties and bigger coverage than even this was. So it's like you're in a weird spot. And also, UConn, do I need to say more? Like, you are representing UConn. And that in itself is always a tough thing to work with because you have a lot more clout than everybody else. Sometimes it works in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm a little shocked with this one from top to bottom, no matter which way you cut it. So, but yeah, it is a weird one, man. I got to be honest, DJ. I don't know for sure. You know what really I feel about it, other than to say it was stupid. But like, it wasn't the worst thing I've seen a guy do to the refs.
I'm still torn because I'm glad it didn't end on technical free throws like that. That had just been such a miserable way to end it, especially with the joke about the Duke whistle coming into it. But that being said, the rule moving forward is I don't care if this next game they get the whistle is as lopsided as possible. It looks like a prime James Harden, Manu Ginobili embellishing the foul call, as they would call it, as opposed to flopping. I don't care if that happens for 2 straight halves. No UConn fans or players or coach or personnel are allowed to complain about the whistle next game. Like no, under any circumstance, I don't care if it's 43 free throw. I don't care if it looks like Bam Adebayo out there in free throw differential. You're not allowed to say anything. I refuse to accept it. That's a wrap. So
yeah, but I mean, I'll give Hurley this. Like, it didn't seem like he had bad intentions with it.
Not at all. Just
it does. It honestly, it seemed like if he was like, okay, I'm gonna paint a picture for people. All right, if I'm Joel Embiid and I go and just dunk on somebody, I'm gonna turn around, I'm gonna flex, and I'm gonna have that emotion. And my teammate, somebody the same size as me, walks up to me and we bump foreheads and we get in each other's face and we're yelling and screaming. We see it in basketball every single day from teammates, which is like, I hate to say I want to take the side of the coach, but also I don't have any evidence to the contrary that he was they weren't arguing before that point. And that's the thing, is like, it was never like he wasn't chirping in his ear. He wasn't getting on him. He wasn't doing any of that. He had talked about it in his post game. He's like, he's a great referee to work with. And I could see that. And I think it's just mistaken identity at the end of the day. I don't honestly think Dan Hurley recognized that it was a referee. And despite my conversation about if you see stripes, walk away, I still believe that. I also think this is one of like, I have a hard time thinking it was like as bad. And also the referee kind of played it off too. He's like, yeah, it's not, whatever. Dan Hurley being Dan Hurley. Like, We'll leave it at that.
If he didn't have such a reputation as a menace, I don't think this would even be that big of a deal either way. They'd be like, oh, that's kind of weird. But when you have his reputation of being a menace and a problem on top of it, and then when you factor in everything else, I think that's why it's been more of a story than it necessarily is. I don't think there's bad intentions. I think it was literally just Dan Hurley kind of being the dickhead that he normally is without thinking. And it probably didn't click. I don't think he actually knew what he was doing, and then he couldn't back up quickly because that draw attention to it. So I think he just, you know, how the joke about seeing red that all the frat bros use after 3 vodka lemonades. I think that's basically what he was doing there. But just normally they punch the wall and down a monster.
Like, honestly, he just looked like he was so damn pumped about the whole thing. He was like, I don't care who's close to the next person that walks up. We're celebrating to get, like, that's what it looked like. I don't care who it is. We're gonna. It is hard for people if you've never played sports, you don't have a really understanding of what I mean by celebrate with that type of celebration. But that's a celebration we do on the court. That's a celebration we do in the field. That's a celebration two dudes who compete every single day together would do. That's just who they are. That's the, I hate to use the locker room bro mentality. That's the locker room bro mentality. That's not toxic. It kind of is, but it's not as toxic as some of the other ones. So I don't know. It's a tough one, but yeah, I think honestly, if the referee had come out with something different other than saying, yeah, it was just Dan Hurley being Dan Hurley, I would have a much different opinion on this. But no penalties, so I guess it is what it is.
That being said, Dan Hurley, don't do that. You don't do that. Like you're the head coach and you have 2 natties. You're composed. You're the leader. Like, you don't do that. You know better.
I'm expecting a sideline pullback guy now for Dan Hurley, specifically for Dan Hurley, like they do in the NBA, NFL, or in the NFL and college football. Yeah, just somebody to grab his shirt and pull him back.
Put a harness on him and just attach a leash. Don't even let him get close. Just reel him in like a fish. But let us know down below if you all think he should have been, if they should have got the technical free throws, or if you think it was handled pretty well. But that was surprising and not surprising. What was surprising is the first week in Major League Baseball is in the books now. His opening week is wrapped up, and we got about 6 games out of the way so far, of many more to go. And we'll keep this one relatively quick because it's very early and the baseball season is very long. But Kelcey, what are when we look at this, kind of what happened in this first week, what are some, maybe a team or two that really surprised you so far, which chances are things will change dramatically, but so far we'll give them the flowers or we'll curse
them. I'm going to start with cursing. The Giants suck.
Wait,
the Giants have already made a trade. It's been that bad. In case they've already designated for somebody for assignment. They've already made a trade. So yes, I know you're going up against the Yankees, blah, 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 blah. Well, right now you're going up against the Pirates who just got beat 7-1 today. And that's not April Fool's joke. That's real life. So, yeah, it's not been pretty, man. It has not been pretty for the Giants whatsoever. So there's my curse. I'm gonna rip the Band-Aid off of that one. I don't want to keep that anymore.
Well, you know what I'll do this? I'm going to focus on some positives here. We're going to give some love to the Miami Marlins, starting 5-1. Granted, they are all at home, but still the Marlins in that division, when I look at the Braves, the Mets, the Phillies, not the Nationals so much, but the rest of those teams, they were supposed to be basically fighting the Nationals to stay out of the cellar. It's a week, so it's probably going to still change because we know how the Phillies are. They start slow, then they get hot, then they annoy you when you actually believe in them in the playoffs. The Mets still have all the firepower in the world. The Braves are still the Braves. I get it. And the Braves are 4-2, but kudos to the Marlins, who are, I'm not going to say a laughing stock, but they're flirting with, they were expected to be flirting with laughing stock / well out of the playoffs. So 5-1, can't ask for much better of a start than that if you're the Marlins. Will it hold? I will bet a lot against it, but you're good for them on the start.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been an impressive run for the Marlins, and it's great for my fantasy team who has 1 Marlin on it. But he's been one of the better Marlins, so I can't complain whatsoever. But yeah, I do think he's been, the Marlins have been really good, so it's hard to overlook it. My good though, I'm not going to give it to a team. I want to give it to a group of people, and that's the rookies this year. So far, they have been playing exceptionally, led by Chase DeLauder out of Cleveland, but also JJ Weatherholt coming in and playing for St. Louis. If nobody saw what he did in opening day, please go look at it. It's been very, very fun. And Carson Benji, I think it's Benj. All have been fantastic. And that's not to include, you got Sam Basallo, you got Bubba Chandler, guys that are going to be making a difference for their teams. I think are all going to be something to watch. And Carter Jensen also, talk about a catcher coming up, potentially placing somebody who's incredible in Salvador Perez. So yeah, this is a very deep rookie class, and they've shown early on that they can play. And it's hard to do that for rookies in April. They are usually quick to pick it up because of college baseball, how they have their short off season leading into the regular season. It's going to be interesting to see if they can keep this going through the All-Star break. That's going to be the real test for this rookie class. But so far, it feels like this rookie class has been playing exceptionally well. I mean, like I said, Chase Louder, kind of leading the class right now.
Yeah, it doesn't get much of a better start than that. The Young Bucks came to play early. As they know, though, it's a long season, so we'll see if they can keep that run going. And like, it doesn't get much better of a start for Chase Louder to start his career. My goodness, like, welcome to, it's only downhill from here. Unfortunately, maybe it'll come back uphill, but it's going to go downhill.
Who said Cleveland couldn't have power baseball?
Well, the other games where he didn't hit home runs, basically, kind of said that, unfortunately, which is actually a good transition into my kind of a letdown. Is I'm going with the entire American League Central as an entire division. There are 4 teams with 1 win right now, and they got 50% of them. There are 6 teams with 2 wins, and they got 33.3% of them. And those aforementioned Guardians are leading the way at 3-3. They have some good wins. Beating Seattle, that's a very good win. Problem is their losses. It's like, I'm sorry, what are we doing here? Like, what's going on here? Like, those aren't pretty losses. Like, those are some painful losses. So the American League Central as a whole out of the gate, I'm putting them all in the okay. That if you're going to count that as your preseason week, you kind of got to get going because my goodness, if you put them in the NL East, the Central, if you put them in the East or the Central or even the West minus the Mariners, the Guardians would be at the bottom. And right now they're leading the division. So AL Central, get your ish together for us.
Well, it's funny, they're actually tied technically because of the 2-2 Royals. The run differential, the run differential for the Royals is why the Royals are technically ahead of the Guardians, because the run differential for the Guardians is atrocious. So bad. Oh, so ugly. I get that.
Wow, a great win, 6-5 over the Mariners, a team we think could be going into that could end up potentially making a World Series run. Oh, wait, now you just lost 8-0. Wow, you beat the Dodgers 4-2. Oh, you just got smoked by 4-1. When they lose, they've lost ugly, and it's been basically split 50-50, like you mentioned. So those are a few that we're looking at, and I'll give a quick one on the way out. Kudos to the Yankees, who we kind of talked about. We don't know how they're going to be in the mix of things, but they're going to, and out of the gate, they start 5-1. They just death taxes and hitting bombs, especially when it's not a game that actually has a whole lot on the line. They just do it better than anybody.
I got one more for you, and it's the Chicago White Sox fans bonding with the NPB fans who all have one person in common, and that's the Munetaka Murakami situation where he is exceptionally good, and yet the White Sox still lose. It's literally been a situation where when he was with the Tokyo Colt Swallows, those fans are literally just looking at the White Sox like, yeah, don't worry, we dealt with the same thing. He is so good, but the team still sucks and we still lose. And now the White Sox are still doing White Sox things. Yet Murakami is 278, 3 home runs, 4 RBIs on 5 hits. I'll take it for my first week in baseball. And especially we all looked at this in the offseason like, why is he going to the White Sox of all teams? It just didn't make sense. Turns out it's just close to home for him. He's used to filling the losing situation while being the biggest player in Chicago. And I maybe not the biggest in all of Chicago, but at least in this side of Chicago.
Exactly. This side of Chicago. It splits right down the middle. But let us know down below what you all think of MLB opening week, any surprises you had or anything that stands out. But we're going to actually go to the hardwood now. We're going to go back to basketball. We're going to stop in the NBA. It is that time of the week again. NBA MVP tracker as we are getting down to the nitty-gritty. Less than 10 games to go. Starting at the bottom, we once again got Victor Wembanyama. He's outstanding. Not a whole lot needs to be said. Next up, we got SGA. Not a whole lot more needs to be said. He's outstanding. And at the top, we still got Luka, who is leading the way for MVP. The reason I went through this so quickly is because it's the exact same as last week. And that's because Wemby is probably you can make a case, the best two-way player in this conversation just because he is that outstanding defensively. Yes. Shea is about to average 30 points for 4 consecutive seasons. He's already a Hall of Famer right now if he were to just never pick up a basketball again with his resume, plus, the ring, the MVP, and everything else he's done. And everybody gets in the Basketball Hall of Fame. So, but he's one that's definitely – Luka's on a historic run right now. If we look let's just isolate the month of March right now. where they won 14 games, he averaged almost 48 and 8 or something for the entire month while shooting relatively decent percentages as well. He played 38 minutes per game, which compared to Wemby's averaging 29 minutes per game on the season and has missed, I believe, 16 games. So if we want to throw those in there, that's always a factor. SGA is still awesome. Like 6 and 1 and a half does the other. If you want to say SGA over Luka, fine. But the tear that Luka has been on recently, and we've seen NBA MVPs, if you go on a run late, that can really shake it up if it is close, which I think it is very close between these two. He's been outstanding. He's responsible for, at minimum, with the 8 assists and the 33 points. That is at an absolute minimum 41 points. And that's not including hockey assists. That's if all the assists were 2-pointers, not threes. That's not including the gravity and the extra kicks. He's been absolutely sensational. SGA, we know how good he's been, and J-Dub's been out all season, so it's even more impressive. He has missed some time on top of it, and the Thunder are just that well-oiled of machine. When SGA is gone, they still win. They are that loaded, so that maybe a slight tick in Luka's favor as well. And Wemby, as we mentioned, they're going to win 60 games. Best defensive player in basketball already, and he's really good offensively despite limited playing time. Yeah, and of course, Joker, like prime LeBron, is always in the conversation, just outside of this top 3. Like as long as he's alive, Joker is in the conversations. But right now, it feels like it's got to be Luka. Going against it would be, I don't want to say reckless, but it almost feel like hating at this point. It'd feel like almost downright hating. You look at it statistically, it makes sense. You look at the record, they've won over 50 games. He would be the first player to score in NBA history, I believe, to score over 33 points on a 50-win team and not win MVP. Oh, wait, he'd be the second one to do because he already did that. He did that 2 years ago on the Mavs when they went to the finals when he averaged that and didn't get that MVP that year. So I don't want to hear about the defensive thing either because, A, we're going to use advanced stats to show for SGA, Wemby, and efficiency. Luka's defensive stats actually in the last month have been really good, and he's one of the leaders in NBA steals and win shares. And B, this is not the who's the best player in the world where you kind of make this is MVP, which in theory is the best player of the season, which considering it gets construed every year, best player on the best team is having a great season, all these weird ass parameters. But it's never going off of your rankings on your advanced defensive win share stats. That's what defensive player of the year is for. That's why they don't have offensive player of the year in basketball because that's basically MVP. So if for me, I don't want to hear any of the defensive things. If you want to say that's why he's not the best player in the world, okay, fair point. But if we're MVPs, a different conversation. Otherwise, it would have been LeBron for like 18 consecutive MVPs. It would have been Jordan for 15 consecutive MVPs. So I digress. We're off my soapbox. The MVP tracker stays the same for 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like the MVP tracker this week again. Just adding to the Luka conversation, he has not scored less than 30 since March 5th, which was a loss, one of 2 losses in the month of March that he was a part of. He also missed one game, which was against the Wizards, so who knows how many more points he would have scored against the Wizards when you have Bam scoring 70 plus.
And that's because of his technical fouls too. It was a suspension, not even because he was injured. It was because he wouldn't shut his damn mouth.
Yeah, well, and honestly, that suspension, I don't blame him.
They rescinded one of them afterwards. So you know what? It's fine. Like if you're gonna say his weakness is chirping, okay.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think it's been incredible to talk about. I mean, even his games under 30 have been 27, 27, and 28, and they were at the beginning of March. We're at the point now where he's got 19 games left in the season. And it wouldn't shock me in the least if he continues to put up 30 a night in games he actually plays more than 20 minutes in.
So they've got even less than they got like 9 games left at this point. Like they're under 10. They're right at the end of it. So
I thought it was 63 right now.
No, I'm pretty sure there's more than 63.
No, but
either way, as you were saying, all he has to do is basically not score 0 for the next 2 to 3 weeks, and he's pretty much going to be locked in for the scoring title. He's 4 points ahead of, or 3 points ahead of SGA. I feel like if he's not the MVP, it almost just kind of feels very weird at this point to not give him MVP with what he's doing this year. It's like, what more would he have to do?
Yeah, you're right.
Unless you're really going to harp on he doesn't play defense very well.
8 games left. My bad. I was looking at the games he's participated in, not the total games. So they played 76, so 8 games left. So, 6 games left.
And by the way, if we did that with the other 2, they've missed more games than Luka, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure Wemby has, or at least it's relatively comparable, so you can't do it. And I'm going to make this point too. Wemby is awesome, and he deserves to be in this conversation. That's why he's there. He averages 29 minutes a game. Luka averages about 38. if you want to prorate that and take away games missed, that's like almost 16 games over the course of a season in difference. So that's good for Wemby why his stats aren't loaded, but at the same time, Luka has to carry that much of a load on top of it. He doesn't have 3 All-Americans in the backcourt like the Spurs do next to him. 3 McDonald's All-Americans and a former Light the Beam All-Star in De'Aaron Fox, who might be the third best of the group if you ask us in like 18 months when you look at Harper and Castle back there. I digress. We're not going to go on the soapbox. This is our MVP tracker. We'll go through this one quickly because we got some important stuff to get into.
Bring Fox back to Sacramento. That's all I ask.
Why do you want to do that to Fox?
Good point. All right, fair enough. I don't want to do that to De'Aaron.
He was a good soldier. Don't punish him by sending him back yet.
Yeah, we're not going to do that to him. My bad.
So Tyrese Halliburton, though, you can come back. You need to quit doing choking signs in the garden. You go back to Sacramento, bring yourself back down to earth a little bit before then you can go back to Indiana. But let us know down below who you all have as the NBA MVP with just a handful of games left. And that's going to do it here for the opening part of our show, the tip-off, which will now lead us into the main event. And for the main event, we are heading back to football as it is April 1st, nonetheless. And you know what that means? It means we're in the same month as the NFL draft, which we started off not too long ago talking about the pre-combine top prospects. And now we're going to talk about our post-combine and post several pro days, top-rated top 10 players coming into the NFL draft. So Kelcey, we're going to go ahead and give them a look at what you have here and talk us through it. There are some differences here. There's some changes. Some things have mixed up. Some guys have gone up. Some have gone down. Some have made their first appearance.
Yeah, so this isn't the most up-to-date because obviously my number one is definitely Jafar Murray. I'm just kidding. If nobody doesn't know who I'm talking about, he's the kicker out of UTSA. He's my honorable mention for real, though. Before I get into all this, I do have to shout him out because he might be the most athletic kicker we've seen in the draft
Big field goal
ever. 70-plus yards, ran a 4.5 40, 12 of 13 for field goals in his pro day. Yeah. Also, when he played soccer, looking at his college stats at Drake, 11 goals scored in 19 games played for a midfielder. I'll take that record on 16 shots. I'll take that record for a midfielder. So yeah, I'm looking at him as an honorable mention, and it's no offense to the other guys here, but it's just somebody to look out for in the sixth or seventh round. Maybe getting a shot just because somebody wants to just see, because it's a kicker. We'll never know. And remember, we believe kickers are people too. So kickers matter.
With that 40-yard dash time, he might be a weapon that happens to kick.
Yeah. But looking at this list, obviously the biggest difference here on my top 10 compared to my previous top 10 is a name missing, and that's Ruben Baines Jr. And I think it's worth conversating about why. And it has nothing to do with him on the field during games. Nothing at all. But when you look at this testing process, because that's what this is, combine, post-combine, pro days, it's all tests. Just what it is. It has nothing to do with getting on the field, putting your pads on, and running against one-on-one against another man or 11-on-11 versus another team. It is purely set up to watch you succeed. I haven't seen him stand out as much as everybody else in drills as the top 10 I have here. And that's nothing to say anything about him. I just need to say this before we get into anything else because he is somebody as game guy. He's a game performer. He is not a test athlete. And that's just what it is. I don't care about the arm length. I don't care about anything else. Put the pads on him. I feel really good about him. I feel really good about where he's going to be in the draft anyways, but I don't think right now he's a top 10 draft option. And this has nothing to do with him. It's just purely down to do this draft class. Honestly, it just doesn't feel like this draft class is one where edges really matter as much as every other position because it feels like edges, and I'm operating under the assumption Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles are listed as linebackers as they were at Ohio State. Let me be very clear. Ruben Baines Jr. is number 2 in that edge conversation. And it doesn't feel like he's good enough to get a top 10 grade right now. And that's nothing against him. It's just, if he's 11, he's 11. So be it. So obviously, let's start with one and work our way down because we're going to do the obvious ones first. Fernando Mendoza. Duh. Jeremiah Love. Does anybody surprised by this one at all? I'd be shocked if you're surprised. Arvell Reese
is not number 1.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, that's probably your most shocking thing. I feel like these two, you can flip-flop Fernando Mendoza, Jeremiah Love, how you like. I also feel like when you get to 3, 4, it's Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles in whatever order you want. However, I can see why people wouldn't have them 3-4. Maybe they have them 4-5. But I think wherever you put one, the second one's going to follow, because what they've done in the combine, what they did at the pro day, I think has been, I think it's shocking how just insane athletes both of them are. And they were on the same team. It's not fair. Like, I don't care who you are. It's Ohio State or Tulane. I don't care. Having two guys that are that athletic on your defense that are operating your entire defense, that should never be able to happen. But I'm not done with Ohio State. We'll get to them a little bit more later. David Bailey, I still think is your top edge, and he's your top true edge. And I need to be very clear about this. I do not believe Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles are going to be listed as edge rushers. I know there's a conversation about it, one of them being an edge, one of them being a linebacker. They're both linebackers because that gives them the most hybrid ability to do everything. David Bailey, you're not going to put out in the flats in a 3-4 defense. I'm sorry. That's never going to happen. He will be a rush edge every single opportunity. Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, you can feel okay with dropping them in the flats. That's what differentiates a linebacker from a rush edge to me. Just being completely obvious about it. Same thing goes with Baines, who I talked about earlier. For me, Bailey it's not like a bad thing that he's below Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese. It's just I think Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles have outperformed in this testing period. I mean, they have just been so exceptional. It's hard not to have them in the top 4 of my board. David Bailey is still a top 5 guy. I actually don't think David Bailey fell at all in my board. I think he just stayed the same. Like, everybody else dropped around him, and some people rose above him, but he just kind of stayed the same on my board from the last one. Next up, Francis Mauigoa. I'm going to mess his name up every time, out of Miami. Still the top tackle in my eyes. I think it's him, and then as you see on the rest of my board, there's one more tackle on here, but I do think Francis is the top guy, and I think there's some space. I do think there's a gap between him and everybody else, and it's not like, I don't think offensive linemen you can really grade in drills, if I'm being fair. It doesn't account for adaptability against the rusher. It doesn't account for any of those things in drills. You realistically don't know how good a tackle or offensive lineman is really going to be until they are 1-on-1, 2-on-1. How are they handling changing coverages? Like, how are they handling blitz coverage, blitz pickups? How are they handling handoffs? What do they do when there's no man in front of them? Those are the things that determine how good an offensive lineman really is. I could care less about how good of a kick step it looks. But that's what happens in the test period. Francis is not, like, I think he moved up my board because everybody else fell down. That was really the biggest thing. I've believed in him since before the draft, before he started this cycle. I still believe he's one of the top tackles. Nothing's happened to change my mind on that. Now, one guy that did fall is Caleb Downs. It's not me picking him as a he fell because reason. It's well, your teammates screwed you, bud. I'm sorry. They just outperformed you in their testing drills. And again, safety is also another one of those positions. I have a hard time with the testing aspect of safety. What, you want me to sit here and watch this guy's fluid hips? Okay, like, unless it's an obviously bad footwork drill, like, safeties are so hard to grade in testing because it doesn't bring the instinctual abilities. Like, Kyle Hamilton, honestly, looked awful in testing drills.
Terrible. Mediocre. Trying to cover guys in that first mini camp, they were like, oh God, what a bust out of the gate.
Look garbage. But you put them in the middle of a field and say, go make a play. One of the best. Earl Thomas was also like that, if people remember. Earl Thomas was not a guy that tested well, but he was a guy that played exceptional. And I think you're going to see a lot of that with Caleb Downs. You're going to see him be a guy he's a guy that is just going to play better than everybody else. And that's nothing wrong with that. But when you look at the testing period, I do have to grade the guys that are just being exceptionally well tested and performing when they're given the opportunity. And then unfortunately, it just means Caleb Downs falls down the list. And he falls in that category we talked about before, where these are the guys that just get nitpicked during this period. Like, oh, you're not doing that right. But, like, you look at his stats, you look at his performance, and it's like, you can't argue with those. That's true performance, and you can't really argue with that. Like, maybe there's a little bit of things that can be fixed here and there, but honestly, that's what works for him and his body and his mind. I'm going to let him keep doing him. Now, on the flip side of that, you have number 8, Mansour Delane, who is probably the most athletic freak of nature back there out of LSU. I think he's just exceptional talent as well. I think he moved up my board just a little bit here, but not incredibly higher than he was. He's still a great talent. I think he's falls into this long line of LSU DBs that continue to come out of the draft that we all look at as like, oh yeah, this guy's good. He's gonna have a great NFL career as long as he can stay out of trouble. That's just the one bugaboo that comes with LSU. It's not like Georgia, but LSU DBs seem to have that similar issues at times. Number 9, Cardinal Tate. I think he's probably the biggest drop on this list that still stayed in this list. Nothing wrong. Just you got screwed by your teammates at performing well. Sorry, bud. 2 other Ohio State guys did really, really well, and you didn't. You're still in my top 10. I still think he's the best receiver. Malachi Lemon's there, but he's still not a top 10 guy in my eyes. I think I just like Cardinal Tate better overall. And then last but not least, Spencer Fano out of Utah, number 2 tackle. Again, I think there's Francis, Fano, then there's maybe a small gap, and then there's the next 5 offensive tackles right below them. Honestly, I think tackle might be one of the best positions this year to draft from, and I think I say a lot that offensive lineman is usually always a really good position, but I think this year especially, it's a really deep class. And you're splitting hairs really between after Fano and everybody else. It feels like you're just splitting hairs. I think Ione out of Penn State is out there, and the other tackle from Utah is out there as guys. It's really your preference on their physical stature. And again, I hate trying to grade offensive linemen on testing drills because it doesn't feel like I'm really seeing what they can do. I've seen guys in person test incredibly, and then when you put them on the field, they have no idea how to slide block, no idea how to block a gap, no idea how to do anything to help their team, no idea how to pick up a blitz. I'm sorry, in the NFL, you need to learn to pick up the blitz, whether it's called out or not. You need to learn how to pick it up because you're going to get blamed for it no matter what if you're an offensive lineman. So it's hard for me to kind of move a lot of offensive linemen over other offensive linemen in this period. But yeah. So anyways, this is what I have, my top 10.
So I'm surprised the Cardinals Tate did stay in the top 10 just because, as you mentioned, since a lot of years was looking at the testing process, I don't say a letdown because it was still fine. It was because everyone thought he was
great. Yeah.
You watch him play, you think he's a 4.37 type of guy, and he ran a 4.53 to between a 4.48 and a 4.53. That's a large gap. So either somebody was very generous or a lot were very ungenerous. He's going to be fine. I still like him a lot too. He's still a top 15, maybe top 10 pick for sure. So I like it. Mansour Delane, I think he'll be CB1 as well. I think he's going to be awesome. Caleb Downs, I do agree with you. I think the way he plays, no testing is going to do him justice because he's not going to run a 4.3 flat. He's swift, he's swift, he's smooth, but he's not super graceful. He's just a good football player. He's in the same vein as Kyle Hamilton. Just when he's on the field, he's awesome. Just when he's playing football, he's awesome. Everything else in between doesn't look quite as pretty per se.
You hear his name more often than you hear any other defender's name, and then not in a bad way. Like, oh, and Downs makes a tackle. Oh, and Downs breaks up a pass. And oh, Downs does this. And oh, Downs does this. It's never Downs blew this coverage. Down gets burned. Like, it's very rarely has that ever been the case. It does happen. It has happened. Let's not kid ourselves. It does happen. But it's never been like one of those situations. And that tells me he has a higher IQ and higher instinct than everybody else. And like, these testing periods don't test that. Like, I can't physically show somebody that this guy knows how to read a field. But I can turn on the tape and be like, that's an instinctual play. Like that's the hardest thing that I have to grade during this period, really.
Most definitely. I think it's going to be really annoying when he goes to the Chiefs or something like that and just ends up being awesome. And then everyone's like, wow, how did they get him? He was so good. And it's like, well, it's because you all ignored him because he is a safety. And now we're all stuck having to deal with this. Thanks a lot, everybody else. You put us through it now. We appreciate it so much. So, I do really like that pick for sure. I think the one that does surprise me too is, as much as you do love yourself some offensive linemen, I thought for sure that Spencer Fano might get that 9th spot. I thought he, just because of Cardinal Tate running a touch slower, I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't have 2 offensive linemen in the top 9. I'm surprised you didn't get 3 in there, honestly. Like, you're kind of breaking the mold here.
I'm not going to tell you what my 11 through 20 looks like because it's kind of offensive lineman after offensive lineman, and Reuben Baines is somewhere in there. But no, I think honestly, Carnell Tate's a weird situation for me because, like you said, watching him play, it feels like he runs a 4.3. And again, how do you test somebody who in pads shows me speed that I didn't just see in a 40? Like, how do I properly grade? Because it's hard to argue with him playing against top tier talent who are now in the NFL or going to be in the NFL, and he's burning them. Like, it's hard to look at that and be like, man, you're slow. Like,
Definitely not slow. Anyone who says slow is blind. I could see why they were maybe.
It's hard to drop because the talent is there. You see it every one of us saw it on Saturdays, even when there were exceptionally first overall wide receivers taken before him in Emeka Ibuka. Go down the list. Marvin Harrison. Go down the list of great Ohio State receivers. Carnell Tate was still the guy that's making plays in a number 3 role, number 4 role, number 2 role. He was still making those plays. And I think that's hard to overlook, despite, like you said, I mean, I think testing wise, yeah, you could say he probably has a C grade in testing, but it didn't feel like that was the C graded player on the field. It feels like on the field, he's an A+ grade. And so there's something to me, like I look at that as maybe there's something like we're not seeing. And maybe he's a pad player. Maybe you put the pads on him and he's just completely different. Hines Ward was that way. If anybody remembers Hines Ward, he was a pads player. He was not a sit in front of you, burn you one-on-one in shorts and a t-shirt. But he's a guy in pads. He's going to beat the heck out of you. And I think that's maybe what Carnell Tate is. Obviously, I think Carnell Tate's still faster, still stronger than him. But I think that's the same mentality Carnell Tate has. He's like, it is what it is. And at this level, I don't care if somebody tests well or not. I just care if they play well on Sunday.
And that's what it all is going to end up coming down to. A lot of this, for me, when we do this, it's not so much, oh, he ran fast, so we're taking him high. It's if they played well and their testing matched it, or maybe they played well and suddenly, like when Justin Jefferson ran that 4.3, it's like, oh, he has a gear that we didn't even realize. And now look how that turned out. So I think
like Arbel Reese and Sonny Styles, those are perfect examples of guys who played exceptionally well and then tested insanely well. And you're like, okay, yeah, they're locks. Here you go. Top 5 position guaranteed. Or for me, at least.
They're going to get there. I'm going to shake it up a little bit. We're going to go through mine quickly because mine's going to look just a little bit different here in a moment. But off the top, I have Jeremiah Love. I am sticking with the same thing. I had him as number 1 in our last one, and he confirmed that by running a 4.3 40-yard dash. And all of his drills, not a lot needs to be said there. David Bailey, I agree with you for edge 1, and I think he's absolutely outstanding. His production score and his athleticism score made him the top-rated edge, combine, pro day, everything so far. He does need to work on a little bit of disengaging blocks, a little bit of strength, some stuff that comes with it. But just as a pure go kill that guy, you can't leave him unblocked either. If you're running away from me, you try and not block the backside edge, you're burying yourself with that one.
His pursuit is insane.
Like he's incredible. He has very underratedly good ability to kind of diagnose plays too. I think he can figure that stuff out a lot. Why I have Ruben Bain so high is when you look back on it, there was nothing really exceptional during the pro days besides his bend. I think the fact that he showed he could bend like that, I was like, okay, we're good here. And the thing he does, okay, I don't care about your arms. If you could bend like that, you'll be fine. You'll get underneath their arms. It'll be okay. And he is everything I just said about David Bailey, about underrated play recognition. Ruben Bain has that in spades. If you try and block, we saw it in the national championship game. They tried to block him a certain way to set up different screen passes, RPOs. He recognized it, saw that coming, and broke up a huge third down against the Indiana that helped get Miami kind of back into the game as well. So I think his mind and his ability to bend arm length concerns don't really have him at this point. I think he'll be all right. Will he be like edge 1, Myles Garrett, terrifying freak of nature? I don't know. Probably unlikely. But in this, if you're picking in that top 10 and you look at Ruben Bain, you need an edge rusher. I think it's a smart pick. He could be very, very solid. Caleb Downs, everything we said, he's incredible. He's just a great football player. If he goes to the Chiefs, we're all going to be pissed. I'm just going to leave it at that at this point. That's the easiest way to simplify it because we saw Kyle Hamilton with the Ravens. Now we're all pissed when we have to play against him. Yeah. Fernando Mendoza, number 5. He had a really good pro day. I really liked what I saw. He showed he has good arm strength, through some fit in between the 50, 60-yard range. A couple hit the ground that were drops. He looked really good. I think he's QB1 comfortably. I know Dan Orlovsky and the Ty Simpson militia is trying to push him up there, and I think Ty Simpson's probably QB2, but I think Mendoza has a grasp on QB1. I like him there. Arvell Reese, as you mentioned, an incredible combine, like blew the roof off with the athleticism. And then he has a pro day where the bend doesn't look good. Then they post a separate video like 3 days later, and suddenly he can bend like Ruben Bain. So it's very weird. I think you could tell he's very in the right system. He's going to be a freak of nature. If Dan Quinn gets a hold of him, he's going to try and turn that man into Micah Parsons, and it might be pretty scary. I think what hurts him almost is that he's kind of in that tweener spot of, are you a linebacker? Or are you an edge rusher? How do we use you? Like, he's a good football player, and a good coach will use him. It'll be awesome. Less good situation, he's Isaiah Simmons probably, and just never quite gets a chance to bounce back. So I think the upside is there. That's why he's still in the top 6. Francis Mayagoa, best offensive lineman. I think he's an elite right tackle for years to come and a really good left tackle. Spencer Fano, kind of the same thing, just a little bit low. We're not going to, as you mentioned, there's not too much to change with offensive linemen besides when you watch him back and you just see they play really well.
Yeah.
Sonny Styles, I have at number 9 in a similar vein of Arvell Reese. Is where are you going to play him? I think he's going to be an off-ball linebacker that sometimes rushes, and he's going to be a freak. I think he did definitely. There's a lot of players you look back on there. They're running away from Arvell Reese, and Sonny Styles is cleaning up. They're blocking everything with Caleb Downs, and then Sonny Styles comes flying in. Outstanding player. That 40, as we mentioned, the combine, him and Arvell Reese tore the combine apart. My goodness, they tore it apart. I like Sonny Styles, and I think if I'm the Giants, I'm really considering taking him at 5. All the things I say, I think the fit will matter with him as well. I like Sonny Styles a lot. Where I'm throwing a little bit of a wrench in things, I got Jordan Tyson as receiver 1 at pick number 10. Injury concerns, I get it. He's not going to go in the top 10 because those injury concerns. I get that. I'm ranking just the player at this point. The best separator in the class statistically, at least one of them. So smooth. He's fluid. He has great hands. He's always finds a way to get open. He performs well against zone coverage. He's big. Speaking of Hines Ward, you mentioned earlier, coached by Hines Ward, so you know he's not going to be scared to block somebody. In fact, he might try and kill a man if he spent too much time around Hines Ward. As we know, Mr. Cracking Jaws and whatnot. I think he's going to be very – he's not going to go top 10 because of the injury concerns. He might even slip close to the 20s, I could see, maybe even like the late first round. Imagine him going – I'm just imagining him going to some of those teams that were kind of like hypothetically, let's say the Eagles get rid of A.J. Brown and bring in Jordan Tyson. If he stays healthy, it's like, well, that's nice. It's not quite – not saying he'll be A.J. Brown, but not a bad consolation prize. That's how I'm looking at this one. Or the Chiefs at pick number 29 from the Rams and the Rams trade. They get him at 29. It's like, great. Just wonderful. Here they come again. That's going to be the barometer that I'm going to use. Is we're going to be pissed when the Chiefs get him. That's how I'm using the barometer. So no one thinks we're being negative here. You can't put 10 guys at number 1, but this is a very quick, condensed version. I think Bailey, Bain, they're going to be great wherever they go. I like Bailey a little more. Caleb Downs in the right system, he's going to be elite. In any system, he's going to be good. Mendoza, QB1. The rest of the guys, I think, very talented. And Jeremiah Love's in the same vein of Bijan Robinson a few years ago, could make a case. I'm just in this particular case, best player in the draft. He can.
Yeah.
I don't know who takes him, but whoever does, it's going to be like, yeah, we'll just get him on the field. I don't know how, but we'll get him out there.
Yeah, I agree with that. And look, I think it's, for me, I almost didn't want to put Mendoza in my top 10 because it felt like I think we're all set. Like, I think we're all in agreement. He's number 1 overall. I don't think it's going anywhere.
If he doesn't go number 1 overall, I have some serious questions about what has been happening with the Raiders and behind closed doors.
Yeah. Unless Tom Brady's coming out of retirement or Brady Tom or whatever alias he wants to go by in his return from whatever. But I think I almost didn't want to put him there because I kind of feel like you, where it's like it's a hard thing to say that if I would take Fernando Mendoza off the list, it's a hard thing to say that Jeremiah Love isn't the obvious number 1. Because to me, he is truly shown that he could be the best overall player in the draft. And it's so hard to but at the same time, we all know the number 1 pick is going to be Mendoza. So it's hard to say oh, I'm going to leave Mendoza off my list, not to be cheeky or anything. It's just purely, we already know he's going to the Raiders. So let's look at every other of the 31 draft picks that are happening in the first round. Where do I rank those guys that are left? It's that's what I wanted to do. And then I was like, that's going to be some rage bait on somebody's behalf. Somebody's going to get mad at me for doing that.
And that's when the Raiders throw a wrench in and don't take him number 1. It's like, well, now we're dumb in hindsight and foresight.
But no, I honestly like your list as far as I think the up till 9, I really like your list. And at 10, I understand the Jordan Tyson pick. It's not that I don't like it. I understand it. I just personally don't believe he's a top 10 player right now. And it's nothing against him in the long run of what he could do in the NFL. It's really against the type of receiver he is. His type of receiver, in my eyes, doesn't last but maybe 5 years successfully in the NFL. Where he is more of a injury-prone, kind of a speedster, like you said, a separator. those guys don't last as long as somebody who is just shown just to get open in different route trees. And I think that's what, for me, why I rank Cardinal Tate, Malachi Lemon a little bit higher than I like Jordan Tyson, where he's just, I think, just not there when it comes to the route tree as much. Also, he was, if you don't remember, like he was the byproduct of the Dion comes into Colorado and says, "Take your luggage and get out. I'm bringing my own," and it's Louis. He was a byproduct of the get out, along with Josh McCown's son. So it's tough because he led that Colorado team in receiving, and then he didn't do anything the next year, and then 1,000 yards the year after that, and then injury this final year after posting 700 yards. So like, he's shown talent. It's just, how sustainable is that talent in the NFL? I don't know. And I do kind of project a little bit of like, I don't believe you're a top 10 talent if you can't stay with the team for longer than 5 years because of injuries. I do have a little bit of that projection in my top 10s. So I'm going to be biased and say that.
If injuries do end up being a reoccurring problem, obviously he's definitely off the list then. But too, I'm turning injuries off for this one. I'm using the Madden injuries off, considering we have seen him be healthy. It just has been a little inconsistent, and I think this last year is one that really hurt him as well. Obviously, the major knee injury at Colorado right before Dion's Louis, as you mentioned, He was outstanding coming into that. Then the next year, basically with the knee injury, basically just redshirted, didn't even really play. He might have benefited from staying one more year, but then I can get why he came out this year, because he's still going to be a first round talent, and you don't want to compete with the Jeremiah Smiths for draft class and stuff next year. And you don't want to risk yet another injury, because then you're really going to get the injury prone label at that point. But the fact that he could play everywhere on the field, he could play outside, inside, slot, motion, Z, X. He's very, very versatile. He could be. I feel like he could do everything, but like you mentioned, I see him in the same vein as like a Terry McLaurin. I think he's just really, really good. His highs are like, oh snap, this guy's like that. But then the injuries really worry. The injuries are worrisome, and I don't know if he'll ever be freaky. But I like all the receivers. I think they're all in a similar vein. They just do things very differently. For example, I think they're all very similar Madden rating. They just do things differently.
Yeah, that's fair. He kind of reminds me of how I felt about Treylon Burks for different reasons, but the same fears I felt about Treylon Burks in the draft, where I'm just like, for something about him just doesn't make me feel comfortable with him as a top first round draft pick. Like, that's how I felt about. If anybody remembers my complaints about Treylon Burks, it was because I didn't feel like he was athletically ready for the NFL. I didn't feel like he was as good of a talent of a receiver. Everybody's like, oh, he's the next Devo. I never agreed with that. I'm not saying Jordan Tyson falls in that exact same guy. He's not the exact same player. But what he is somebody who I have a weird feeling about coming into the draft, where I just like, something is wrong and I can't place it other than the injuries is the obvious flag. But there's also something else, like something about the way he plays, I don't find as something I see in an NFL level.
We also just haven't seen nearly enough of him for a very long time, which is another concern too. And it's like, what's going on here? Why haven't I seen enough of you? I think that's a huge concern.
Because he's impactful. I mean, there's no denying 700 yards and 4 touchdowns in 7 games, something like that, 6 games, 7 games this year before he got injured. Like, incredibly impactful, no doubt about it. But
and we saw how bad that Arizona State team, plummeted after he got hurt too. Like you went from having a potential Sam Levitt maybe being a drafted quarterback there, maybe the first couple rounds being really good, to now you're transferring. Well, you got to take another crack at it, because that team was not nearly as strong after Cam Scatterbo left and Jordan Tyson went down. And it was like, oh, and then Sam Levitt gets hurt. And it's like, well, we're a mess now. So we'll see. I do like a lot of those receivers. I hold in a similar vein. But let us know down below who you have in your top 10 and which one of us is categorically terrible and which one of us is at least semi-competent, or for both categorically terrible. Your call. But that's going to take us into Kelcey's favorite part of every show, and that is, of course, crunch time. And for crunch time, Kelcey, you're going to take us to the pitch. We got to talk a little bit of soccer. It's been a busy day.
We do. Yeah, busy week. So 2 playoffs just wrapped up. You have the European playoffs, the UEFA playoffs, which, wow, Italy got knocked out by Bosnia in penalties. Who would have thought that? Honestly, not me. This also comes after they moved the stadium to a stadium of 8,000 fans. And let's just say it didn't go over well. There's a hotel or a large tower building in the background, and there were actually Bosnia fans up on top of the roof with flares. Very cool scene. Very, very European soccer night scene. But yeah, Italy gets knocked out after going down to 10 men because of a rash tackle that got a red card. There was also a headbutt by Donnarumma, so honestly, lucky they didn't go down to 9. But yeah, Bastoni gets a red card. Italy can't recover, goes to penalties. They lose. Absolutely crazy scenes for sure. But then on top of that, Czechia gets through, as does Bosnia and Herzegovina after their qualifying, by the way, knocking out Ireland. So, yeah, great to see all the teams getting through. And we do have a completely finalized roster because this wasn't the only tournament happening. There was also the Intercontinent Champions, which if my computer would ever work, but they are. Let me pull it up. You think I'd have this stuff ready, right?
Hmm.
All right, you have Bolivia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Iraq, Iraq and the Democratic Republic of Congo both advanced. Bolivia and Jamaica were in the finals against both teams. They lost. So you do have the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo and Iraq advancing to join the European team. So we do have our full 48 team group now, which hallelujah, sweet mother of everything. We are 90 days out, a little more than 90 days out from the tournament, and we finally have our complete group stages. All 12 group stages have their teams. So here we are. But yeah, most importantly, Italy gets knocked out. Every Italian American cries into their pasta with a little too much garlic in it. So sorry, guys.
You know what? I'm excited too, especially as you mentioned, all the World Cups coming up. We got all these playoffs kicking in. The summer soccer is right around the corner. Like we're getting really close to it. It's getting serious time. Like I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and be sure to stay tuned because you already know we will be having our Summer of Soccer on Belly Up Sports. So hosted by me with Hector along. DJ, you might make an appearance. We're gonna have Fun with Flags again. Nobody remembers the Fun with Flags with last year's Summer of Soccer. Fun with Flags is coming back this year because we have 48 countries. 48 countries. I get to talk about 48 different flags. Well, I talk about all 48 because nobody needs to know about the red, white, and blue anymore. We already know enough about the U.S. flag. If you don't know about the U.S. flag, look it up. Everybody else, we will be talking about some of the more fun flags. I know Turkey's in there, Panama, Haiti, Norway. Lots of fun countries to talk about in this one.
Absolutely. And before we wrap things up, we're going to go from one football to another football. It's not so brotherly love in Philadelphia. Things are a little bit rough there. And we're not going to go through the entire report. It was a very well done piece overall, but it's a long one and a doozy, and we don't have quite that much time. But more or less the gist of it, inside the Eagles 2025 friction as Jalen Hurts stands at a crossroads. So just a quick summary of it. Last year was a bit rough for the Eagles, as we all know, and things continue to be a little bit shaky every time they either go to a Super Bowl or things get really erratic and painful and kind of like an epic collapse. 10 different sources from within the Eagles, within the Eagles organization for this one. A lot of them, I don't want to say pointing the fingers at Jalen Hurts, but saying there is some issues there as far as the offense, as the stagnation in the offense, the simplicity of it, the things that they don't do that they should do. That part of that is attributed to Jalen Hurts doesn't like to do those. Some of it is that no one's really keeping track of things. There's a lot of really kind of weird scenarios. It does also point out what I think is interesting about two things that were interesting is one, that does kind of make sense as far as why the offense sometimes seems very run their 5 plays, as we've kind of joked about. They got 5 to 6 plays and they kind of run those like Novocaine. It's what works best with Jalen. And when you have that many offensive coordinators coming in, not just in the NFL, but going back to college, I kind of get that. It's at this point, it's like, I'm not learning a whole nother damn new offense. We're going to do what I know does well and has worked for us. So they run some similarity stuff there. And also at the same time, you do see some of the coordinators adapting. Kellen Moore at the Cowboys, a lot of outside zone, a lot of play action, a lot of different passing concepts. Comes to the Eagles, yeah, we're running inside zone. We're running out of shotgun. We're not getting under center anymore. We're not doing any of that. Works. Win a Super Bowl. So obviously this isn't even a knock on Jalen Hurts, but it is interesting how the Eagles can always kind of find a way to just have something weird going on. It is like the Dallas Cowboys, just not as funny, I guess. Like it's kind of annoying at this point almost. They went from the A.J. Brown saga, which that's the last thing I'll point out with this one too, is this tells me A.J. Brown's not getting traded because if you have 10 anonymous sources, it feels like if this is fully accurate, which I presume it is, that means a lot of people in there probably agree with him, and he ended up just being the one to say it out loud. So maybe there's a little bit of weird turmoil going on back there. It's very interesting. With that being said, I'm still going to bet on the Eagles to make the playoffs this year because, as we've seen in recent years, really weird season, Super Bowl. Really weird season, Super Bowl. Well, we just got a really weird season, so I guess Eagles Super Bowl bet is the one to make right now. But I just thought this was very interesting. Because what we always talk about with Jalen Hurts, like the consummate leader, the professional, speaks in Hallmark cards and motivational on YouTube. And then behind the scenes, it's a little bit of a lack of creativity, lack of synergy, some questions, some concerns. And then at the same time, you know what this reminds me of? Actually, that's what I'm thinking of is he gets knocked a lot. Like when they do bad, he gets knocked. When they do well, it's the team. And those coordinators end up getting head coaching jobs. It reminds me of early career Russell Wilson a little bit, where he's like really good. He does a lot of good things that not play style necessarily, but like really good player on a really great team, and then almost gets knocked every time they do bad. And then Russell, we saw, took his game to another level and then kind of fell off the cliff, but took it to another level where he was in some, they weren't questioning his ability to throw the ball as much. The biggest question was, why do you only throw it deep? Like you can throw over the middle, you just refuse to. So I think Jalen taking a few steps in the passing game to shore up some of those things, I think that's kind of the trajectory he's on right now as well. Not saying he's going to go full Mr. Unlimited or Mr. Extremely Limited, but I thought it was a very interesting read. And it paints that the Eagles under Nick Sirianni are an absolute mess, but it seems like they just find a way to make it work regardless. Like it's the joke where people say, look, it looks like chaos to you, but I know where everything in this room is. And it looks like a garbage disposal. That's what it feels like the Eagles are. Just every other year, they got to clean the garbage disposal a little bit.
Yeah, look, structured chaos is a thing. I think Jalen Hurts is not a product of the structured chaos, though. He is himself. Just he's been coached to not make mistakes. And the one thing that not making mistakes can do to you as a quarterback, especially, is limit you. It's just what in the NFL, as a quarterback, and especially in the years of advanced sabermetrics or metrics, is we just call it. It is a situation where you don't want to make the mistake that costs yourself the game. You don't know what mistake is going to cost the game, but you don't want to be the one to make any mistake because then you don't want to be potentially liable for the game. It's not like he needs to be perfect. It's not like what Nick Saban, because Nick Saban's offense were so boring that you didn't have to know a lot. You had to know 14 to 21 plays. That was it. And it was because their defenses were so much better than everybody else in the country. Their athletes were better than everybody else's athletes in the country. Well, you're at the NFL level. You can't afford to just be average offensively and average at taking risks. You do have to take risks. Tom Brady talked about taking risks. His were calculated risks. And the one thing I don't see from Jalen, and we've talked about this before, is I don't see a calculated risk from Jalen ever. It's as simple as he has an opportunity to get the edge on a scramble, and instead he just decides to pull up and then fall every single time, or do that weird slide thing he does that ends up getting himself hurt. He is not a quarterback that is bad by any means. He's just a quarterback that doesn't make mistakes, which I don't hate, but at the same time I hate. Because he just doesn't want to show that his performance can be exceptional, because he is a great, I think talent-wise, you don't put that much work in and you're not great. Let me be very clear about that. You put that much work in, you are going to be, you have the opportunity, you have the talent to be great. But if you let the mental aspects of the game hold you down, and that being a fear of mistakes, you will never succeed, whether that be in business, whether that be in life, whether that be in the NFL. Your fear of making a mistake will prevent you from finding excellence. That's just what it is. Like, no entrepreneur that made it big, no Bill Gates, no Elon Musk ever took the easy way to get there. Michael Jordan didn't take the easy way to get there. He worked himself to death. He took risks. He made the plays that he had to make, and he took every opportunity. Jalen Hurts doesn't take every opportunity. And I think that's something that with him, you see that, and it's very obvious on the field that it can cause frustration, because there's not just one player in the NFL. Whereas in basketball, one player can greatly influence a game. In the NFL, there's a quarterback who throws to a receiver. That's two people. That means two people are 100% responsible for the success. It's not 50-50. It is 100% and 100%. He can throw a 100% ball.
Too. Don't forget your big boys like that.
Technically, yeah. Then there's another 5 in front of them that are 100% responsible for the pressure that Jalen Hurts feels. then there's a play call that is 100% effective of how this is impactful to the success overall. And then you have referees that become involved. They're 50% of the responsibility as well. So all these things come into play. Whereas in basketball, you can be one is better than you. And that one will always be better than you. In football, you can have two that are greater than two, and they still lose because one of them doesn't perform at 100% in one play. So my point is, like, Jalen can't be afraid of himself not performing because he has the capability of performing exceptionally well. He could be an MVP. He can take the world by storm if he just really lets himself. But he's just shows on the field that it's almost like this Nick Saban comes into his head and says, "You don't make mistakes on my field. You don't bleed on my jerseys. Water's only good for wiping the blood off my jerseys, and you don't bleed off my jerseys." Like that's the mentality that was ingrained to him at Alabama. You know, he's not going to make a mistake. And so he has to, unfortunately, unlearn all of that. And instead, what's happening is Nick Sirianni's just like, "Nah, dude, you do you." Like, I need my quarterback to have a little bit of cojones out there. I need him to show me he's not that kid that was doing things the safe way. And I think that's just the one thing Jalen Hurts lacks is, like, there's a killer mentality. Everybody talks about how he's got the Mamba mentality. No, he doesn't. If you had that, you would let the ball fly to A.J. Brown just because it's A.J. Brown. You'd let the ball fly to Devontae just because it's Devontae.
Some of the things that stood out that I thought were very interesting is we'll start kind of in the same here. The Eagles have failed to give Hurts the level of consistency he has yearned for, knowing he could breed excellence. That's very interesting because that's outside of his control, and you could see. So NFL teams all talk to each other. They know more about each other than they ever let on. So you see when someone does well, then we saw Shane Steichen got a head coaching job after leading him to the Super Bowl. Brian Johnson, it was a mess in the worst season of his career, got fired. Kellen Moore, basically it was him and Saquon Barkley. Jalen Hurts existed between the snap and getting Saquon Barkley the ball at certain points, it felt like. Ended up with a head coaching job. Kevin Patullo, it was another mess, got fired now with the Dolphins. So we'll see what's coming up next with Sean Mannion, but it almost feels like it does feel like a weird situation. What I thought was very surprising is this note here, the poor body language, not always bought in, not the most coachable, and the players notice. That's not a good sign. If that depends where obviously we take everything with a pound of salt. I'm saying if this is something that is actually legit in there, that is a little bit concerning considering what the number one thing Jalen Hurts has always been lauded for is his leadership. It is his leadership skills. If that's the case, it does kind of throw a wrench in some of these things. And then not being the most coachable when those things do get stagnant, you see why A.J. Brown has a few words to say here. Or sometimes the offense just seems stagnant and you see shoulder slumping. You see like offensive linemen walking back slowly like, oh, here we go again, 3 and out.
Yeah.
So that I could see where this comes into play, but at the same time, like this wasn't an issue when he's dropping 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl like 12 months earlier. Like it's a very weird scenario where that maybe it's just the Eagles and the soap opera they run, but as a Super Bowl winning team and Super Bowl MVP quarterback, it feels like that honeymoon ended a lot quicker than it does for a lot of other players, which could be maybe things behind closed doors are that erratic and maybe they've actually done a good job of keeping under wraps. That's why we only know what we do know. Who knows? That's why they're very interesting.
I'd say, like, you use Shane Steichen and Kellen Moore as the example here as coaches that did get something. I think the differences between those two and like all the other coaches on this list, you look at them as coaches who not only know the position, but they support their quarterback in a way that they use the talent of their quarterback. Like it's no argument that Shane Steichen used the talents of his quarterback. They supported him by using his talents. Kellen Moore obviously did that as well. Brian Johnson tried to make Jalen Hurts something else. Kevin Patullo, I don't know what he was doing, but it was not connected. Like he did not connect the two facets of the game together. And it's like I think the twist on what you said about Jalen Hurts about needing that consistency that he earns, I don't think it's necessarily consistency is the right word. I think really what it is he's looking for a system that is supportive of everybody's talents. And I think that's the consistency that he earns. He has yet to have a system that's the same every year, other than the 2 years of Shane Steichen. And so I think that's a situation where he's like, I just need something to be consistent enough that we can all support each other. We all have talents. Let's all use them to the best of our ability. And then the body language thing, he's such an independent person. It's hard to tell because he's not like other quarterbacks. He is just an independent mentality guy. And that's hard when you're the quarterback, to be that guy who just walks to the sideline and talks to only your coach. And that's it. Like, you're supposed to be the rah guy in today's NFL. And I don't agree with that necessarily, but that's where Jason Kelcey was so advantageous for Jalen. Jason Kelcey could go be that rah guy and keep everybody else in check. Jalen now has to do that, and he's not that guy. Saquon's not that guy. AJ Brown is a get in your face guy if something's wrong. And somebody needs to equal him out, and there's nobody to equal him out.
Last thing I'll notice too, since we're running a long time, I wanted to point this one out too. Said he needs coaches who will check him. Opinion that Hurts had too many yes people around him. I remember hearing something like that with RG3 after his rookie year, where he was basically complaining about the Shanahan, saying that he wanted to be like Peyton Manning, no more running. Hopefully that is not the case here. Hopefully this is just, when you have so many coaches, it almost ends up being 1 year out the other. Maybe it's like, yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, which not a good thing to have, but at the same time, you get it when you have that much inconsistency throughout. We'll see. The Eagles, for nothing else, they sure are interesting. They sure are very interesting. Like, for better and for worse.
There's a soap opera everywhere, right?
That being said, if I'm Sean Mannion and I'm taking over this offense, you know what I'm doing on the first play of the regular season? We're running a damn flea flicker bomb to AJ Brown with the deep cross out to Devontae. We're going to make it look like, just another halfback guy to Saquon, and we're going to and Jalen, you're ripping it. If it's a single safety, you bomb it over the top. If they drop back and don't give you AJ Brown, Devontae's running across the field. And if you don't like it, throw it anyway. I don't care. It's the first play of the damn season.
I'm going to go even crazier. I'm going to say you run 2 verts, full max protect. Bring in 2 tight ends. Max protect them guys. Max protect with Saquon. Don't even play action. Don't do anything. Just Devontae, AJ, run straight. Cut it off if you need to. Jalen, throw the darn ball. Just throw the ball. Like, this is your one job. I want you to throw it and try to throw them open. Play one.
It'd be even better if they were like, you know what, you say he doesn't like to go under center? 7-step drop. Not even a play action, just a straight 7-step drop. 2003, we are so back. Like, we'll say go Eagles if that's the first play. Not that, but it'll be fun.
Hey, I'm still looking for a team, so I might say go Raptors.
Now we're getting somewhere, but that's going to do it here for the show. We appreciate y'all so much for joining us, and those of you who did stick around this far, especially because live with other things going on at this exact same moment. But we appreciate y'all so much for hanging out with us. Glad April Fools will be over for most of you listening to this, and we'll see you all again next time.